Good evening, everybody. This is Pasquale Majori, and I am here for Give Me 20 Minutes, and I need you to give me 20 minutes here tonight. We are streaming live on Facebook, we are streaming live on X, and we are streaming live on YouTube. If you're following or streaming along on YouTube, please go to my Instagram feed, follow me at WNY Pasquale. Go to X, also follow me at WNY Pasquale, so you can find out everything that goes on with this program here that I call Give Me 20 Minutes. Now, I had planned on doing a program yesterday on Sunday, June 1st, but then I was reminded that on June 2nd, 1987, professional wrestling history happened right here in Buffalo. And who would I be if I didn't talk about it? You know what this program is all about. I'll talk about different things, whatever happens to be on my mind on a given day. But as you know, professional wrestling is my wheelhouse, especially when something as momentous as this happened in Buffalo. Once again, we're looking back to June 2nd, 1987, from the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium in downtown Buffalo. It was a great evening of Buffalo. I am the promoter of Buffalo Championship Wrestling. On that evening, it was a great evening of World Wrestling Federation action, and we are going to talk about that here on this program. But I just set myself up. If you want to talk about Buffalo Championship Wrestling is coming back on Saturday, September 27th, once again at the Renaissance Italian Club in North Tonawanda. It's called the Big Fall Bash. 6:30 bell time. You get used to seeing us on Sundays at 4 o'clock in the late winter and spring. But when we fast forward ahead to fall, we get into the fall season, we do Saturday night at 6:30, and that's what we're doing. The Big Fall Bash, Renaissance Club, North Tonawanda. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. The marketing promotional materials will be available for that event very soon. So you want to find out more about that, you can follow Buffalo Championship Wrestling on all forms of social media at BCWWNY and find out exactly more about that huge event. We're so excited to be back again, once again, I should say, at the Renaissance Club in North Tonawanda. We've done 2 events there, and they have been tremendous hosts. We're looking forward to going back for yet another event and seeing what they have in store for us in September. So find out more about that once again by going to the social media feeds and get all the news, notes, and updates. But as I said, when I started this program here tonight, we are going to turn the clock back. We're going to turn the calendar back to 1987 and talk about a big event that happened at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. It was a taping of WWF Challenge. Now, at that time, you had WWF Superstars, you had WWF Wrestling Challenge, you had Primetime Wrestling, you had, what am I missing here? I'm drawing a blank. You had Saturday night's main event, you had WrestleMania, you had the Survivor Series, you had SummerSlam. So the reason why I want to talk about how big of a deal this event was, for those of you that watch quote unquote modern wrestling, you know it's not that random and not that rare of an occurrence when you turn on Monday Night Raw, maybe Friday Night SmackDown, you turn on a premium live event and you see a title changing hands. Oh, wow, a title change hands. But you know what? 2 weeks later, maybe that title changes hands again. 6 weeks later, maybe that same exact title changes hands again. Roman Reigns had one heck of a WWE Universal Undisputed Heavyweight World Championship, whatever it was called, which was a very long run. We talked about the long runs in WWF history, talking about Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, and Roman Reigns. So it was very rare to see a title change, let alone not on a pay-per-view, what it was referred to at the time, not on WrestleMania, not on SummerSlam, not at the Survivor Series, because the Survivor Series was a was a specialty event. You had elimination tag team matches, so the title changes might take place at WrestleMania, at SummerSlam, and so this was a big deal. The Honky Tonk Man defeated Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to become the new WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. Huge deal. Recently, as we talk about modern professional wrestling, you know, Gunther, Walter, some people still refer to him as, because they can't get over the fact that he changed his name to Gunther, the longest running Intercontinental Champion in the history of the WWE. However, I will still make the argument that the Honky Tonk Man is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time in the WWF. You see the championship right there, Honky Tonk Man, courtesy of my WWF Superstars LJN figures right behind me. So not only was he a very long-reigning, very long-running Intercontinental Champion, I'm not going to get the number for you. You can go find that yourself on Google. I'm not going to be a stat geek here tonight. I'm just going to talk about the argument that I have why the Honky Tonk Man is the greatest Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion of all time. At that point in time, WWF, yeah, that's right, WWF was doing 2, sometimes 3 events a night. We're talking about 2, sometimes 3 events on a Saturday. We're talking about sometimes 2, 3 events on a Sunday. The Honky Tonk Man would most likely be in that second tier of events, defending his Intercontinental Championship in the main event of that card against whoever the challenger was at the time. He faced a lot of great challengers until he lost that championship to the Ultimate Warrior unceremoniously at SummerSlam. But he was wrestling 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 times a week defending that championship. Very rare that they had extended time off. So, you know, not to take anything away from Gunther, but maybe Gunther was defending his championship 1, 2 times a week. You know, if they went on a European tour, he would be wrestling every day. That's a whole different story. But the Honky Tonk Man out there 7 days a week doing battle, putting that championship on the line. So while his championship reign may not be as long as Gunther's, in this era, the Intercontinental Champion had to go out and battle on a daily basis to hold on to that championship, not to mention being in the main event of those second-tier towns and, you know, being the face of the company, doing media, doing radio, doing the personal appearances, doing the signings, doing all that came with being a top star in the WWF. And if you heard anybody talk about that time period in the WWF, it was nonstop. They were flying, they were driving, they were wrestling every night, they were doing the autograph signings, they were doing personal appearances, they were doing the telethons, they were doing radio, they were doing anything they could possibly do to promote the product. And that was showing, because the buildings they were going to were sold out night in, night out. New York, Boston, Los Angeles, Chicago, and all points in between, Miami, everywhere sold out. A very hot period of time for the World Wrestling Federation at that point in time. So we were very lucky to be able to see that championship change right here in Buffalo. I want to take a look at the card that evening. A lot of stuff was going on television-wise. Once again, this was a taping for, I'm sorry about that, excuse me. Let me rescind what I just said. This was actually a taping for both WWF Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. So they did a little bit of both on this card. So once again, June 2nd, 1987, the history of WWE.com, a great website, a great resource that I like to use a lot when I need to go back and look at some results and find out what happened when I was a child, things that I don't remember anymore. They do a great job. They do a great service by having all these results posted up, and I will post the link to their website in the description of the YouTube page. But let's talk about this Superstars taping. It kicked off with a feature, which was a Snake Pit segment, if you remember that, hosted by Jake the Snake Roberts. Hulk Hogan and Killer Khan were involved in this. Khan sprayed green mist into Hogan's eyes, which would set up a match. Also on the card, we had Bam Bam Bigelow. We had Ken Patera, who pinned Nikolai Volkov in what would be considered one of the bigger matches. WWF World Champion Hulk Hogan and Koko B. Ware with Jake Roberts in their corner, who Koko was substituting for, defeated Kamala and Kimchi, and WWF Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man, in a tag team match. So with these television shows, with these Superstars tapings, with these challenge tapings, you'd see a lot of the same faces over and over again. It's a lot different than what the WWE did when they came here and they did their Netflix live taping. You only saw each wrestler maybe once, maybe twice if they had an interview segment. But with these, you would see wrestlers 2, 3, sometimes 4 times, depending on what was going on with their stories on television. Other things we had going on, Outback Jack was also in the Snake Pit, did a segment there with the Iron Sheik. Hillbilly Jim and Little Beaver also made an appearance in the Snake Pit. The British Bulldogs were in action against Hamilton Local, Johnny Canine, and Dusty Wolf. If you've watched WWF in the 80s, you know all about Dusty Wolf. The Islanders in action against Eric Cooper and S.D. Jones. Junkyard Dog was there. Dino Bravo and Greg Valentine. Lanny Poffo was there. We talked about the Honky Tonk Man. We talked about his match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who dropped the Intercontinental Championship to the Honky Tonk Man in the Memorial Auditorium. You also had the Killer Bees, who defeated the WWF Tag Team Champions Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Animal Neidhart in a non-title match. George Animal Steel was in action. The Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zank, also Killer Khan once again on the card. Billy Jack Haynes. So much went down in action, this WWF Superstars taping back in 1987. Now, we all have these life regrets. We talk about things that we missed out on when we were younger. We talked about things that we missed out on when we were an adult. I wanted to go to this event so bad. Hulk Hogan was on the card. This was June. School was coming to an end. I got the no from both of my parents. We weren't going to the event. I was highly disappointed. Came into school the next morning. Some of my friends who went to the event the night before actually made it to school. Some stayed home because this was a pretty late night. I went to a WWF challenge taping, back at the Niagara Falls Convention Center back in the early 90s, and we didn't leave the venue until 12:15 in the morning. So I had a quick turnaround time to get to school the next day, and this was a similar situation. So once again, you tape all these matches, and then you post-produce them, put them on TV in different episodes of WWF Superstars. So I believe they taped 4 total episodes that night. You would see in sequential order, which would lead up to the next Superstars taping, which may lead up to SummerSlam down the road. So all this stuff kind of falls into place and goes into what you're going to see at SummerSlam. Of course, if you want to spend way too much time on the internet, you want to find out what goes on behind the scenes. There was some stuff that went on behind the scenes when it came to the match between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and the Honky Tonk Man. Once again, I will leave that up to you to go and do your own research, find out more about that, and really find out what exactly I'm talking about. But right here on Give Me 20 Minutes, I just want to talk about what went down, what happened. And again, this man, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, won the WWF Intercontinental Championship, which is now held at the time by the Honky Tonk Man right there. That's not really the Intercontinental Championship. This is actually a WWF Championship, but they didn't make an Intercontinental Championship. So you take this, put it on, turn it this way. You can't tell the difference. So he defeated Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3 to become the champion. Had a couple months with the championship, lost it to the Honky Tonk Man. Then once again, Honky Tonk Man went on a great run, held on to that championship, and became, in my opinion, still the greatest Intercontinental Championship of all time. So when history like that happens in Buffalo, we need to go on, we need to turn the camera on, need to turn the microphone on, and we need to talk about it here on Give Me 20 Minutes. Another big happening in Buffalo wrestling happens later this week as well. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get on and do it on the date of the event. Actually, I might be able to do it. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. We'll talk about that. But if you're a big wrestling fan, you know that June is a big month when it comes to the history of professional wrestling here in Buffalo. And we will talk about that this weekend. I will tease that on my social media as well. But I'm coming up on 20 minutes. I'm running out of time. If you have any thoughts about that night of action, you want to talk about your Honky Tonk Man memories, you want to talk about the Honky Tonk Man's manager, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, do that as well. Drop it in the comments section, and I will mention them on the next program. But I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in tonight and watching or listening to Give Me 20 Minutes. Once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to Instagram, go to X, find me at WNY Pasquale. If you're watching this on X, go to Instagram, add me at WNY Pasquale. Go to my YouTube channel at WNY Pasquale, and please subscribe to the channel. I mentioned at the top of the program, Buffalo Championship Wrestling back in action on Saturday, September 27th, 6:30 bell time at the Renaissance Italian Club, 252 Vanderbilt Street in North Tonawanda, New York. 6:30 p.m. bell time. It's going to be a big night of action, and you can find out more about that by finding us on social media at BCWWNY, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for that as well. But that's it for me. I'm running out of time. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in tonight to Give Me 20 Minutes. My name is Pasquale Maggiore, and I will talk to you back here again real soon. Thanks again, everybody. Go Bills.